Terrific. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the January admission virtual event. I'm Nikki Barron. I'm an Associate Dean of Admission. I'm also a Hamilton College alum. I graduated in 2002, and I'm also the coordinator of our January admission program. Congratulations to all of you joining us this evening. Congratulations on your admission to Hamilton. We are really excited about the possibility that you might join our community. One of my colleagues has a really catchy phrase that is that every Jan is a Hamilton student, but not every Hamilton student can be a Jan. You all were selected to be Jans because we know that you have the opportunity to do something really exciting in the fall semester before arriving to Hamilton. We know that you can make good use of that time, that you'll be productive. And we know that when you arrive to Hamilton, you have the ability to really jump right in and maximize the Hamilton experience and hit the ground running. We know that you all are going to make very positive contributions to our campus community, and we can't wait to see what those contributions will be. So we're really excited about this virtual event this evening, specifically for our January admission program. I'm joined tonight by 4 panelists. We have 3 current Jans, and I'm also joined by our Director of Orientation and First Year Programs. They will each introduce themselves in just a moment. Just letting you know that as we move forward this evening in the next hour or so that we have together, we will be addressing the questions that you submitted when you registered for this event this evening. But you're also welcome to pop in any additional questions that you've thought of in the Q&A or in the chat. 2 of my colleagues from the admission office, Tyler Boyle and Cameron Siegel, are actually monitoring the chat. So you're welcome to put any additional questions that come into your head in the Q&A or in the chat here in the Zoom webinar. But let's go ahead and get started with some introductions. Asa, why don't you get started first?
Hi, everyone. I'm Asa Segvari. I'm a sophomore. I am from Carlisle, Massachusetts. As I imagine many of you are, just outside of Boston. Currently, I'm in my dorm in Root, which is one of the 5 clustered dorms right by KJ and McEwen. I am just declared my major as a physics major, and I'm kind of figuring out minors as well right now. I am a Adirondack adventure leader in the summer. I manage the bike co-op, which is a volunteer organization. We just make sure everyone's bikes are up in working condition. And then my job is to get paid to fix the school's bikes on campus. For my fall semester, I did a Where There Be Dragons program in Nepal, where I spent 12 weeks with a group of 12, mostly gap year students, and then one other sort of like a Jan student from another school, where we were doing various things, traveling the country for about 12 weeks. And I guess we're also doing our show and tell right now too to start this off. So here's a bit of art that I got on the street while I was there. It's called a Tonka painting of the life of Buddha, which is actually it's a practice painting done by students in a monastery. That's my year.
That's really neat. That's great that you got to keep that memory and that you have that physical representation of that fall experience. So Kit, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kit. I'm a junior. I'm from Rochester, New York. I'm currently living in Major. I'm the RA for Major, 3rd floor. I'm a psych major, education minor. I'm on the e-board for Campus Activities Board, which is in charge of events like Class and Charter Day, which is coming up. People are excited for. I'm also a student employment representative, so I work with the student employment office, helping students get jobs on campus. And I'm also a peer advisor for the Career Center, so I help people with cover letters and resumes. So I actually stayed home my fall semester, and I took community college classes, and I also worked in an ice cream shop. So it's a little cheesy, but my show and tell is a photo of my mom's not in this photo, but of my family on Halloween, and we carved pumpkins together. I think it was a lot of family time, which I loved, and just, community college classes were a little easier than my high school classes were. So it was really nice to just spend time with my family and learning about my family. So yeah, that was my fall experience.
That's great. Terrific. And Ella, how about you? You want to introduce yourself?
Alrighty, hey guys, I'm Ella Gaspar. I'm also a junior and I'm from Reading, Connecticut. And Tyler told me that there's a lot of Connecticut people. So I am in my dorm right now. I'm in Ferg or Ferguson. Everyone calls it Ferg though. It's on the light side of campus near admissions. And I live in a single, it's massive. I'm a public policy major and a jurisprudence and legal studies minor. And some things I'm involved with on campus, I'm a tour guide. I'm also an orientation leader with ASA. I'm the philanthropy chair of one of the sororities, and I'm an events coordinator for the Hamilton Association for Volunteer Outreach and Charity. And then I spent my first semester, not very original, in the London program, which was absolutely fantastic. And my show and tell thing is this t-shirt that says Dartmoor Zoological Park. I don't know if any of you know the movie We Bought a Zoo. If you don't, you need to watch it because it's my favorite movie. But it's actually based on a true story, and the zoo that it's based on is called Dartmoor Zoological Park, and that's in England. So I made my friend take a train ride with me, and we went there, and I like bawled my eyes out. I was so happy. It was like the happiest moment of my life.
That's great. That's a great memento as well. And Tessa, how about you?
Hi, I am Tessa Shafallo. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Orientation and First Year Programs here at Hamilton. That title is probably somewhat self-explanatory. I oversee our on-campus orientation program. I also oversee one portion of our orientation trips called Exploration Adventure. We have 3 branches. Asa and Ella have led for Adirondack Adventure. There's Exploration Adventure and Outreach Adventure. I'll talk a little bit more about those later in our program today. And then I run a program during the academic year called the First Year Experience, which is largely like a programming and social series for students, and do a lot of other general outreach and support of new students. I work a lot with students in the transition process, right? So after the deposit date and to the time that first year students come to campus, whether that's in August or in January. And that's really one of the parts of my job that I love the most. I love working with new students in the transition process, and I really love working with JANs in the fall semester and starting to learn about all the different experiences that you're having. In past years, I've actually had the opportunity to visit JANs at some of the programs they do, including the London program, which is a lot of fun to see firsthand the great opportunity that you get to just live this experience that most people don't get to have in their time before college. I'm a little envious, frankly. I wish, looking back, that I'd done more that was like that in my college time as well. So one thing I really love about my position in general is getting to engage with students in that transition process where they're figuring out so much about the things they're interested in, having these new experiences, and then for JANs coming back to campus and really starting to sometimes make sense of those experiences in the new Hamilton environment, but they've got such a robust kind of background already. So looking forward to hearing about what many of you do in the fall if you choose this program also.
Terrific. So let's just get started with the admission process. These students who are here with us today, watching us, have just recently heard about their admission to Hamilton as JANs. And so question for Ella, Asa, and Kit, can you talk a little bit about your reaction when you first learned about your admission to Hamilton as a JAN, thinking back when you received the news that these students recently received and putting yourself back in their shoes?
Who should go first?
Jump right in. Go for it.
Yeah, so definitely don't feel like you're alone if you're confused and like upset by the news. I certainly was, and it was just not something that I'd pictured myself going into. I had always thought of like myself as like going for a rigid plan of life, like high school, then directly to college, then law school. So getting this like unexpected like opportunity, I was really unsure about what I wanted to do. And I mean, the entire time when I was hearing back from other schools, I was like, oh, but like Hamilton has this and that school doesn't. And I was really interested in Kenyon actually, but I was calling it the Hamilton of Ohio. And everyone was like, Ellie, you're comparing it to Hamilton again. Like Hamilton is the school that you want to be at. And then Accepted Students Day, we had a like trivia night the night before. And this kid, Greg Zimmerman in my grade, he was like, we were talking and I told him that I was a January admit. And he was like, oh, how'd you get that? Can I be that? And I was like, oh, do you want to switch? And then he was like, that's so cool. And then I started to realize that it wasn't necessarily the negative thing that I had initially thought it was. And then on Accepted Students Day, I had been in contact with the Jan actually for quite some time, from via like a mutual friend. And I met him, and like immediately after seeing that he had such a positive experience in London, I like committed that day. And so it's definitely like a roller coaster of emotions, and like don't be surprised or confused. Like it happens to everyone. That's just a little bit of my January admission story.
I was an ED2 applicant, so I really, really wanted to go to Hamilton, and I got January admission, and I was definitely at first disappointed about it, just because I wanted to be there in the fall right away, but I would not trade it for anything. Like, I am so happy I chose January admission and went forward with it. I look back and I want to like shake myself for being disappointed, because I'm like, what, like, are you joking? You got into Hamilton, like it's gonna be perfect. But I was definitely disappointed at first, but all the disappointment went away. Like, I'm very happy here.
Yeah, I'd say I was also an ED2 student. My sister's a senior here and my mom went here. So starting from the beginning, when I was looking at schools, I almost wanted to not love Hamilton, but I still did. And then the Jan admit came around, and I still waited for the other schools that I got into, but it was a pretty easy choice in the end to still choose Hamilton. And I took the being a Jan as just an opportunity more to think of it like a gap semester, and have the opportunity to do whatever you want to do with it.
I think Jans are really exciting. I think it's so exciting every year to welcome the Jans, because they infuse the greatest amount of energy into our campus community. We get so excited to welcome the Jans. They've all done really interesting things during the fall semester. We get excited to learn about what they were up to in the fall, but they've also been thinking about Hamilton for a really long time. And so they arrive with so much enthusiasm and so much energy for Hamilton that they really do just hit the ground running, and become really important members of this campus community and make really positive contributions, as I mentioned earlier. Another question that we received from one of our registrants this evening is, how does being a Jan impact your financial aid in subsequent years after the first semester? This is also related a little bit to some really common questions that we've been getting about payment and fees for the fall semester experience. So your first payment to Hamilton is actually for your spring semester tuition. So whatever it is that you choose to do in the fall, the cost of your fall experience is paid directly to that program or directly to that experience, whatever it is that you choose to do for the fall. Your financial aid is then, for your first year, is only applied to the semester when you enroll at Hamilton, which is for the spring semester. Then in your subsequent years at Hamilton, you will receive our financial aid policy is committed to meeting full demonstrated need for all of our students for all the years that they are here, which means that in your subsequent years, your financial aid will continue to meet your demonstrated need for the full academic year when you are an unenrolled Hamilton student in your sophomore year, junior year, and senior year moving forward. So let's turn a little bit to the fall semester experience before coming to Hamilton. For the current Jans, I'm curious if you can share your experiences of what process you went through to do research and figure out what fall semester experience would be the best fit for you. Because I think another really exciting thing about the Jan program is that each Jan gets to choose that fall experience that student feels is going to be the best fit of how to spend that time before arriving to Hamilton in the spring semester. So I'm curious if the three of you could share the process that you went through as you were researching the fall options, and how you chose the option that you ended up pursuing before coming to Hamilton.
I can just start with, I have always really, like, I didn't love to travel. Like, I was very much a homebody. And so the idea of London was really scary for me. Like, going to college already was kind of a scary idea. So I was like, okay, if I stay home and kind of transition to college and work, that might be a better fit for me. So that's kind of how I decided. I do wish I had pushed myself a little bit more and gone to London program, but it was still like a great experience.
Yeah, so for me, as soon as I got the January admissions offer, I knew a bunch of students that were currently enrolled in Hamilton. So I reached out to them and asked if they could put me in contact with Jans they knew. And so I asked them all, and they'd all done the London program. So I was asking them kind of how that went and what they thought it was like. And I definitely didn't want to fall behind and graduate late. I wanted to graduate with my classmates. So that was another major factor for me. I wanted to come in second semester with the same amount of credits as everyone else. So that was also something that I like strongly considered, and the London program does allow you to do that. And I wanted to be with a bunch of Hamilton students too, so that I wouldn't come to campus feeling like I didn't know anyone. And the London program grouped me with like 40 or so other Hamilton students, which was very helpful. And we all came back to campus and had like a strong community, but also got to meet other people.
I'd say I was just looking for an opportunity to do something that I wouldn't really have the time to do any other way, because it's kind of hard to just set 3 months of your life aside after college to just go do something. So I thought a little bit about the London program, and it's similar, I think, to studying abroad, which I know some Jans do, some Jans don't. But I really looked for something that that would do the most for those 3 months, and something that would be really hard to do again in the future. So that's how I chose the program I did.
So we've also gotten some questions about what are other fall experiences that might not be one of our partner programs. And so if you choose to take the route that Kit took, which is taking local college or university classes, how do you work then on transferring them to Hamilton? So the answer to this question is that we really encourage students to work really closely with our registrar's office. Our registrar's office will work with you as you are considering your fall options that may not be a partner program, about how those courses might transfer to Hamilton for credit. We really recommend that you go through that pre-approval process for a couple of reasons. One is that you will then know which credits will be transferable. Another is that you will know how many credits will transfer to Hamilton. And another reason that we recommend you go through the pre-approval process is that some of those courses might meet our prerequisites for Hamilton classes. And so when during the fall, you are then going through the advising process of registering for your spring semester classes, you then might be able to choose classes that you have taken that here at Hamilton that would meet prerequisites of classes that you took in the fall. So I actually was in touch with our registrar before this evening's program, and I got her permission to share her email address. So in the chat here, I am providing you with the registrar office's email address of who you should be in touch with if you are exploring the process of getting pre-approval for fall semester courses that might not be through a partner program. Her name is Ann Riffle, and her email address is right there in the Zoom chat, and you are welcome to reach out to her. As I said, I was in touch with her in advance of the program this evening, so she does know that she might be hearing from many of you coming up. Another question that we've gotten from some of our registrants is about the application process for our partner programs. Yes, there is an application process if you are exploring any of our partner programs, Arcadia University in London, C semester, School for Field Studies. There is a separate application process where you actually apply directly to those programs. We've gotten a number of questions about our partner programs, and I wanted to alert you all to what I think will be another helpful program for you, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. Please save the date. On Tuesday, April 6th at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, there will be a virtual information session where we will have representatives from each of our 3 partner programs available to give you an overview about those programs and the application process. So stay tuned. There is information available about the registration process for that program, but just know that more information will be available through that virtual program in a few weeks. So another question that we've gotten is, if you didn't do some kind of Hamilton affiliated partner program, how did you catch up on the academic credits to get on track to graduate on time? Was this difficult? Did it cut into your ability to do summer internships or have other summer experiences? Asa, why don't you take this question, given what your fall experience entailed?
So one of the things that aided in pushing me to doing what I did was when I was choosing to be a Jan, I looked a lot into the AP credits that are taken by Hamilton. So I 3 of the courses that I took freshman spring were then also I got a credit through an AP credit with them. That's pretty consistent in the sciences and in math. So it was a chemistry, physics, and math. It is still definitely possible, and I have another friend who's a Jan who he decided just to add an extra semester instead. So you can, especially if you have at least a few credits going in, it's definitely possible to stay on track. I'm pushing through to get one more credit because I'm currently 1 credit behind, but it's very doable. And if you end up taking 1 more semester, it's not like you're behind. You're just doing your normal 4 years.
So in addition to ASO's Where There Be Dragons programs, we've also had students have internships. We've had students work on political campaigns. We've had students do community service. We've had students travel. They really do any number of different things. And then it's definitely possible to work on making up those credits if you choose the non-credit option for the fall semester. You can, or if you're eligible for AP credit, for example, for advanced placement classes, you can get the credit that way. You can work on making up the credit by taking summer college or university classes and transferring the credit to Hamilton. You can take maybe 5 classes in a semester here at Hamilton when the typical course load is 4 classes a semester. So we really are committed to supporting students and making sure that students don't feel overwhelmed by having to make up the credits. So there's great advising available at Hamilton to really support you in however it is that you choose to spend the fall. And then once you arrive to Hamilton starting in the spring semester. So just to wrap up sort of the fall semester experience questions that we've been getting, I'm curious if each of the 3 current Jans could share what was the best thing that you took away from your experiences in the fall before you arrived to Hamilton?
I think I can go. So obviously I was in the London program, and I think like I'd been to like sleepaway camps and things like that, but this was the first time where I think I was really able to realize, like, come to terms with who I am as a person. And it was like an excellent opportunity, not to restart because I can't say I changed much about myself, but to kind of go into it being comfortable with who I am. And I think that happened in multiple ways, being comfortable with the academics in London, like the incredible bonding that being a Jan does to you in London. You get close to those people incredibly quickly. And like planning travel trips and feeling like a strong, independent woman, honestly. We would plan our vacations and get to the airport and then just like carry on from there. And I think it made me mature a lot faster than some of my peers.
I think I can carry on from there. I'd say I wasn't getting to know anyone from Hamilton, but I got to know really well 11 other people from other schools that I would have never otherwise met. Probably some of the closest to any people I've ever been with, because you're spending every waking moment with them for months. But not just that, also getting a lot more comfortable interacting with groups of people that you may never otherwise interact with in your life, like in rural villages in a country that otherwise you may never go to. And it just makes you a lot more comfortable sort of with everyone.
I built a really strong relationship with one of my professors at the college. I like opened up to him so much. We just really worked well together. And I think that was like a great, again, confidence booster going into Hamilton, feeling like I had made a connection with the professor and like really helped me with like my writing going into Hamilton. So oddly, I think the biggest thing I took away was that relationship I had with that professor leaving.
So we've gotten a lot of questions about the orientation experience. So Tessa, would you like to describe what orientation for JANs look like? And we've specifically gotten a lot of questions about whether JANs might be able to participate in fall orientation.
This is a good question, a common question. I'm getting emails about it too. And it's that time of year. I know people are excited. We are very focused on planning August orientation too. So let me first talk about January orientation, and then I'll get into August, since that's slightly more complex, as you can probably imagine. So all January admission students, and actually all spring admit students, because we often have spring transfers, participate in January orientation. We wrapped that up about a month and a half ago this year, and January orientation is primarily on campus, and it covers some of the basics, right? So we talk about some campus policies, but really the focus is heavily on resources available to you as a first-year student at Hamilton, making sure that there is a lot of time for social connection with other students. Even JANs who spent the fall semester together are often really eager to, even though they've got their friend group and those students are back on campus with them for January orientation, are really eager to get to know other new students too, right? Students who did different January orientation, or I'm sorry, different Jan fall semester programs, other new transfer students. And so January orientation is really focused on that, on those social connections, having a chance to become acclimated to campus, explore the landscape before all other students return for the spring semester, because the JANs are always here a little bit early. In a typical year, also, our January orientation leaders are all past JANs. So they have a really great sense of what you have gone through, right? Often they've been at some of the same programs as you, but they also know what it's like to arrive on campus in the middle of the academic year. Often there's a snowstorm also. This year we didn't have one, which was pretty exciting for me, and I think exciting for families who traveled. But they are such great mentors during January orientation, because they can really help new JANs hit the ground running, make connections. And I always feel like they're such a great example of how fast that first year goes, and how so many JANs come in worried about how they're going to acclimate socially to campus. I've already seen some questions about this in the Q&A, and our student panelists might talk to this later in the program, but in my experience, JANs are often a little bit quicker actually to get immersed into the community, to find connections. They want to hit the ground running, and the JAN leaders are usually a really great pathway for doing that, right? They can get new JANs connected with some of the orgs they're in. They can say, oh, I've got a friend in this group. If you want to meet that person, you've got somebody to go to the meeting with. So January orientation is highly focused on that. We do some off-campus experiences too. We weren't able to do them this past January just because of some of the COVID regulations, but in a typical year, there's a chance to get off campus into Utica or Clinton or some of the surrounding area, just to get a feel for the community. So that's January orientation. I expect that it will look pretty much just like that in January 2022. August orientation, of course, so August orientation is in two parts. One part of that is what we call our orientation adventure trips. So I spoke to those earlier. They are Adirondack adventure trips, which are wilderness-based trips. They could be hiking, canoeing, kayaking. Outreach adventure trips, which are service-based trips, primarily go to Utica, which is about 15 minutes from campus, and they do things like construction, kind of Habitat for Humanity type projects. Some work with the refugee community in the area. There's an environmental service trip, and then exploration adventure. Those are topical trips. So they might be an arts-based trip, a history trip. We've had kind of music production trips. They really range the gamut of pretty much everything you can imagine. We've had beekeeping in the past, which was a lot of fun. So just themed topical trips where students will go out and explore various parts of New York State. So all of those trips go off campus in a typical year. This past year in 2020, we were not able to do those trips. I think many of you can figure out why. So no students, both fall admits and January admits, went on trips. We did an entirely on-campus program. Looking ahead to this August, I am pretty hopeful that we will be able to go off campus. I've got a lot of good signals so far that that will be the case. And because last year, this past 2020 August, we didn't go off campus, JANs didn't come to campus for orientation because it was pretty much the same program that we offer in January, right? So there wasn't much to miss, and we wouldn't have had the opportunity to have people mingle and get to know other Jans, and actually you would have spent most of the time in quarantine anyway. So it would be a lot of travel to sit in a room for a while. So this year, things are looking a lot more positive. We don't have a final decision yet, though. I will say from my area, I feel pretty confident that if we can go off campus, we can also safely bring our Jans to the area to experience these trips. And I'm also feeling good about going off campus. A lot of the regulations on our campus already are starting to loosen up. We're seeing better numbers in the Oneida County area where Hamilton is located. And I think given some of the vaccination rates and things like that, we're on a good trend to be able to get much closer to a normal experience this August. And if that's the case, I fully intend to invite Jans to come to campus and participate in those trips. The reason I'm speaking in maybes is that there are so many factors to consider, and to some extent the college and state guidelines will dictate what we are able to do. But like I said, I feel pretty good about this year and I'm excited. So I'm happy to answer more questions about what the trips look like too, if people have those. But I'll also note that as the spring progresses, I will be in touch with all students and families to kind of let you know what to expect this August, what that process looks like. If we can run full trips, we can include Jans. What that would look like is around May, late May, you would get an invitation to view our orientation trip list for the year, and you'd be able to kind of indicate your preferences, and you'd be assigned to a trip along with all of our other fall admit students. And usually on each trip, so there's not a specific trip dedicated to Jans, you just get to pick the trip you're interested in, which is great because you get to meet other fall admit students. And often I hear from Jans, it's a great way to have some connections, right? So you come to campus in August, you get to know other students, start to get a little bit of the feel for the Hamilton community. And then when you're away in the fall, you've got some tethers back to campus, right? You've got people who can keep in touch with you. And when you come to campus in January, again, you've got that group to return to have meals with in the dining hall, to join organizations with. So it's a good touch point.
A great description of the exciting program that we have. I think orientation is not just the program that exists for that designated orientation period, but orientation really extends beyond and goes into the academic year. And it really is a full transition experience that Hamilton is really committed to supporting students with, even beyond that designated orientation time. So I'm curious if the current students can share their experience with orientation, and specifically, one question that we've gotten is, how did starting a semester into the academic year impact your social life? Was it easy? Was it hard to integrate into the social scene halfway through the academic year? Did it feel like everyone on campus already knew one another when you arrived in January? If you could each please share your experiences with that, that would be great.
I guess I'll start here. So having done August orientation, I already knew a handful of people on campus. I knew probably the group of people I knew the best from August orientation was the Jans, because at the beginning and end of that, we spent a lot of time together. And then immediately you're already living with all the other Jans. So it's very easy to get to know the Jans at the beginning, also because the Jans are all trying to get to know everyone. Everyone else too, no one knows everyone, and no one's like has a perfect group of friends or anything like that after the first semester. One of my closest friends, who's my neighbor right here, I met him in one of my classes, and by like the third day of class, we were already planning a bike packing trip that we're now gonna be going on this summer. So like you'll meet people quickly, or you'll meet people a little bit longer, but it's definitely not something you should worry about, because everyone is always looking to find more people.
I also attended August orientation, and if it's an option for you guys, I would 100% recommend it. It calmed a lot of my nerves about coming into Hamilton a semester late. Also, I made some of it bonds you similar to how the Jan experience bonds you to people, because I was on an AA trip, so we were in the woods like together for like 3 days, no phones, and that like Hamilton orientation. The reason why I wanted to be a leader is because of how like, successful I think it is in bonding the people in each group. So I would say that if you go on one of those trips coming back, you're more than likely going to have like a group of 5 or 6 people that are so excited to see you. I remember my first week back, my orientation leaders planned a welcome back Ella lunch, and so my entire group ate in commons. And that was like, that made me feel like I was definitely at the place where I belong. It was definitely hard to go to orientation and then to leave, but I tried to look at it as like, I really did choose the correct place that I want to be at for the next 4 years of my life. Like, I was like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to go home and then go to London. I want to stay here. But if anything, that like even calmed my nerves as well, because I was like, you made the right decision. Like, this is exactly where you want to be. And these are the people that you want to surround yourself with for the next 4 years of your life. And I'm definitely an extrovert, but I think when it comes to meeting people, not only have like by the time you get here, most of the freshmen interacted with each other, but they want to know who like other 40 members of their class here are. So when you get there, they're like, are you Jan? Who are you? And it can be a little like intimidating in the beginning, but then you realize that they are like curious and want to know you because they want to make new friends as well. So it doesn't feel isolating, although it like instinctively it definitely does. But I'd say the Hamilton community and students do an excellent job of like diminishing that pretty quickly.
Yeah, so I also went to August orientation and I highly recommend that. That was honestly one of the best experiences ever. I was also on a trip with another Jan in my year and we bonded and we're still close friends now. So I was a non-London Jan and a Jan, and there was probably 3 other people in my class here that didn't go to London. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was a little hard in the beginning for sure. But I really put a lot of effort into just going to everything I could. Ella's one of my best friends, and we met going to yoga, and she couldn't touch her toes, and so we bonded over that. And just it's so. I now have like the best friends I've ever had. Like it's like Hamilton's really my home, and it was definitely it wasn't the easiest transition, but after a few months here, it's like I've made the best friends ever, so it's so worth it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm wondering if what advice you have. What can Jan students do to become a part of the Hamilton community when they arrive?
I just go ahead.
You
good. You good.
Kind of similar to along the lines of what Kit was saying, like go to anything that you think you might remotely be interested in. I went to so many club meetings the first like few weeks of being here, and I didn't end up joining them all, but the ones that I did find myself interested in, I've stuck to like till this day. Like I've become the president of the women's club soccer team, and when I used to be just like this Jan that like barely knew anything and didn't know how to find the field. And it's an excellent way not only to get yourself like outside of your room and meeting new people, but to meet people in different grades. And there's no like stigma like, oh, they're in a different grade, I don't want to talk to them type of thing at Hamilton, which like some of my best friends are like freshmen this year, which is fantastic. So I would say just like anything that like the corner of your mind is like, oh, that might be cool, go to it.
I think I was a club member of like every club on campus my first first semester here. Like what Ella was saying, and I remember getting my resume looked over by a peer advisor and being like, do you want to get lunch after? And like, she's one of my friends now. So it's really about just like doing everything. Spirituality dinners, it's All Beliefs Union that I went to. And that became like some of my best friends are also still just from that one dinner that I had there. So it's really just going to anything and everything and meeting people, and it really works. Yeah.
I'd say, well, my first semester was about 6 weeks. So it was definitely hard to meet new people. And coming straight back into doing academic work after, so the Dragons program, there's an option to do like a 1 language credit, but I opted out of doing that. So I spent a lot of time doing work, but I spent a lot of time just doing work with people in my classes. You'll hear this this is probably the start of when you're going to hear this, but go to office hours as much as possible. If you want to, like, the fastest way to meet people like-minded to you is it's the people taking the same classes as you, and you will meet them and get to know them so much faster just working through stuff with them. That's definitely one of the best ways to meet people, and meet people who might have very different interests than you. So if there's some clubs you think you might want to join, definitely join that. I I think was on the email list for like 10 different clubs after the events fair. But also they might have completely different interests than you, and it's any way you can try to find to meet new people. Go for it.
Another thing I just want to throw in quickly, sorry, is I still do this like to this day. Kit will vouch for me. When I leave my room in the morning, I stay in KJ until the end of the night when I'm done with my homework and I come back to sleep. And that's an excellent way to like meet people and start any kind of conversation. I will just find myself sitting in the atrium or even the library as well. And I'll look around and there are people that I know that I can go up and talk to, even if I don't know them super well. It doesn't feel uncomfortable to just go up and talk to them if we have a class together, but we've never spoken. And that's probably like one of my favorite things about Hamilton, that I can sit in like an academic building and actually have a good time for like the entire day and get my work done, but also have those social hours.
I think what you all have just described is definitely from my own experience of being a Hamilton student as well, which is that if you are willing to dive right in and jump into the Hamilton community and give it your all, Hamilton will have a lot to offer you in return, and you will get so much out of your Hamilton experience if you are truly willing to give it your all. And the growth that you have during your 4 years as a student is tremendous. And it is really common, as our students have just described, for students to really get involved in a lot of different extracurricular areas and do a lot of different things on campus rather than focus exclusively in just one area. And I think you all have just described that really well. Tessa, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the ways that the college stays connected to JANs during the fall before they arrive to Hamilton.
Yeah, sure. Before I do, I did want to add, I think Ella touched on this, but in the spring semester, in my experience, most first years, not just JANs, but the first year students who came to campus in the fall are equally eager to find social connections and join new organizations. So it's not just that JANs are coming and everybody else is settled. That is not the case at all. So there's usually, the first year students who are here, and also like sophomores and juniors and seniors, are also still looking for new friendships. They're looking for new connections. And so it's, as a JAN, you don't come and on campus, arrive on campus, and you're out there just with like 40 other people looking for friends. Really, the majority of the campus is still really excited to meet new people. So connections between the Hamilton community, the college specifically, and JANs during the summer and the fall include a lot of different options for outreach, but also some ways that you can connect with current students. So one big thing that is an option for all JANs before arrival is the JAN Mentor Program. So what happens there is you sign up, you tell us a little bit about yourself, and you're matched with an upper class JAN mentor, so a current student. In most cases, those are JANs in the class right before yours. So this upcoming class of mentors that I'm recruiting is from the class of 2024. And you get matched with them and have some introductory conversations. And then it's really up to you and your mentor to build a little bit of a conversation, but they are there to answer your questions. They are there to kind of help you navigate resources at Hamilton. They're there to talk about a lot of the questions that you've posed today and that the student panelists in this chat have answered about how do I kind of hit the ground running when I come to campus? How do I make social connections? They're just a really great connection to have to campus, both in the summer as you prepare for whatever your JAN fall will entail, and also throughout the fall as you prepare to come back to campus. Sometimes there's questions about, how do I get involved in an organization early, or I just want to know what's happening at Hamilton while I'm away. And sometimes it's about registering for classes, but the JAN mentors are there to support incoming JANs in all of that. We also host a series of Zoom. So I have some Zoom drop-ins that happen over the summer, which are about campus resources and connections to other students. Also, those are open to all incoming students. So those are certainly something you could participate in. And then in the fall semester, there is a JAN student committee, totally run by students, that has been hosting some meetups, some virtual meetups, which has been kind of a really fun addition to our year as we all start to use Zoom more, which didn't feel that great at the beginning, but it's something I think we will actually maintain because it was really neat for our JANs who choose any different program that they want to in the fall to still get to know one another, even if they weren't in a shared experience together. So we will continue to host those this fall so that even if you pick a program and there are no other Hamilton JANs there, you can still get to know some of the other students who are in your cohort. The JAN committee I referenced is also a great resource. They have been, it's only a couple years old. I think this is maybe the third year of the JAN committee, but they've been really great at kind of helping to identify new ideas for JAN outreach and program. They give me a lot of great feedback about orientation and are another way to kind of get involved if you're interested. So you could reach out to any member of the JAN committee with ideas, but they've also helped to host a lot of the events. So it's really student to student contact. And I think that there's some JAN social media also. I think there's a JAN Instagram account that's new that's kind of highlighted some of the fall experiences of this most recent class of JANs, and they plan to continue. I think there were a few photos on there from orientation also. And then when you're on campus, whether that's in August or in January, these same groups of students are planning events. There's also the first year experience that I talked about earlier, which is like a whole academic year program specifically for first year students to get connected, to have activities to do in a year when we can get off campus. We do some off campus trips to go like bowling and apple picking and things like that. I'm pretty hopeful that again, we'll be able to do that in this coming academic year, since we're already starting to open things up for off campus experiences. The leaders of January orientation, like I said earlier, are great people to help you get connected on campus and find organizations and things you're interested in, or just join up for coffee on campus or something like that. And I think you've heard a lot from the students here today about some general tips for connecting, but there is also a student organization fair that happens the first week. So in addition to January orientation being really focused on social connections and getting around campus, there's a student organization fair that is really heavily attended. So pretty much all of our student orgs show up at that. They're really looking to recruit new members. That's something I always encourage new JANs to go to, but I think anybody who's been to it in person can tell you it's packed. It's not just the new JANs that are there. It's like all first years, but it's often sophomores, juniors, seniors too, who are again looking to find a new activity to get involved in. So those are some of the initial ways that you can get connected and some of the outreach you can expect from me if you decide on Hamilton. And then I'll add that I'm also there to address any other questions you have. So once all new students deposit, both JANs and fall students, I am kind of a primary point of contact to just help you navigate whatever questions you have. So even if I don't know the answer, I can connect you to the right person. So you get a lot of emails from me, invitations to Zoom calls, and then in the fall especially, you will hear from me frequently and maybe get a visit from me depending on which program you go to visit.
That's great. So we've also gotten a question about housing and how housing works for JANs. Would one of the current JANs like to share your own housing experience when you arrived at Hamilton?
For London, everyone gets to pick their housing, and JANs are like the only members of the first year class that get to pick their roommates. Everybody else is random. And they do that, I think, try to make it more comfortable for you, which I greatly appreciated. And I ended up living with my two closest friends from the London program, and actually a girl in my grade who did a Where There Be Dragons program as well. I'd never met her before, but her orientation roommate said she was nice, so we went with it. And she was an incredible, like, beautiful, confident, intelligent woman, and it was like an incredible experience for me as well. And we really grew like close connections with them. And the JANs typically live on the third floor of Dunham, which is the primary first year residence hall, but there are a couple scattered in different parts of the campus if need be. But I liked that you get to pick your own roommate. That kind of helped calm me a little bit, because I knew that I would be able to have this like safe space where there was someone that I was comfortable with.
As someone who obviously didn't go to London and the whole picking your roommates was a little scary, It ended up working out perfectly because I had gone to August orientation, and one of my friends connected me with my freshman roommate, and it was like the best roommate I think I'll ever have. So don't be worried if you have to pick, you get to choose your own. It's a really good experience.
Yeah, I was in that same position as one of Ella's roommates, and I guess this is also addressing one of the Q&A questions that popped up. So I didn't really have internet access the entire time I was in Nepal. There was a few weeks where I had a little bit of internet access, and that was more just an hour here and there to check email. But it didn't align with registering for classes or doing the housing questionnaire. So I got all that done pretty much in the week or two before I was leaving. I think I had a Zoom or something with Tessa at some point then. I don't fully remember. It's a bit of a blur. But no, everyone at Hamilton, everyone who I met with prior was very helpful to getting that all squared up. And then I got home and found out who my roommates were going to be and pretty much immediately started texting them. So it was a very good experience.
Yeah, I can jump in and talk a little bit about the process that Asa is talking about. It's totally fine if you won't have internet access in the fall. We know that that's true, especially for those who choose C semester in addition to Where There Be Dragons. So what will happen if that's the case is, we'll know what you're doing. And also sometimes students are proactive and email us just to say, hey, I'm going to be totally off the grid for months. What do I need to get done in advance? So either I or the registrar's office or both of us will be in touch, and we'll usually give you everything in advance, right? So like Asa said, you can Zoom with us, you can call us, but we can give you all the paperwork in advance so that when the deadline comes, we can include your interests and your preferences at the same time as everybody else's. So to start with the housing questionnaire, I also wanted to add that if you don't want to pick a roommate, that's okay. You don't have to choose a roommate. There's a lot more information that goes into the housing questionnaire than just saying, here's who I want to live with. Not for other first-year students don't have the choice to choose a roommate. JANs do just because of the specific circumstances, because in many cases you've developed relationships before the time you come to campus. But the housing questionnaire is sent out by Res Life in the fall semester, right around the same time as actually the advising tour, which is where you choose your spring semester courses. And I know there was a question in the Q&A about that. So those come out usually late October, early November. They're both online forms, and the housing questionnaire asks you a lot of questions like, do you like to get up early or stay up late? Do you like to keep your room messy or very clean? It asks about things you're interested in, things you value, things you want to be involved in on campus. And all of that information is also used to match you with a roommate. So if you didn't indicate a preference, you will still be matched with somebody to live with based on all of your information. And that's what's used to match first year students who come in the fall, right? And in many cases, it's really successful in creating friendships. So don't panic if you're like, I have to pick my roommate. That's a lot of pressure. There's a lot else that goes into that.
Yeah, Hamilton actually, I'm thoroughly impressed by the housing that we do, because the person in charge of our housing, her name is slipping my head right now. She reads every single questionnaire herself. It's not done by a computer and sorted, and she does a terrific job. Everybody gets along with the people that they live with, and I was blown away when I realized that she reads them all herself and pairs them up based on what she thinks.
Yes, it's Ashley Place, the director of residential life. And Tanith Sherman, the assistant director, works on them now too. But I've seen Ashley during the summer with the stacks of printed housing questionnaires, and she gets really excited when she finds a great match. And she does the same thing in the fall semester as they prepare for the spring. So yeah, their Res Life is really good at taking a lot of things into account. And then a couple people asked, I think, about when you choose courses. So we use the advising tour for all first year students. That's similar to the housing questionnaire. It's going to ask you a lot of things. So you're not just going to go in and say, here's the classes I want to take. It's going to ask you a lot about your academic interests. It's going to walk you through some of the educational goals of Hamilton. It's going to walk you through a lot of options that exist for you. It's really to get a sense from you and for you to spend some time reflecting on what you want to do at Hamilton. And then the last step of the advising tour is where you will indicate your course preferences for the spring semester. And so the timeline for that is similar. It opens in late October, and then you usually have a couple of weeks to complete it. And during that time, you'll get a lot of support from Hamilton. So I can certainly help you, but Anne Riffle, who we mentioned earlier from the registrar's office, is an incredible resource for that process. And actually, I think what she does is often has phone calls with most of the JANs to kind of talk to you, or, you know, Zooms or emails back and forth. So she can answer any of your questions about registering for spring semester courses.
So I think, unfortunately, we're running short on time together this evening for this program. And so, Tessa, I'm wondering if you can wrap things up with any parting words of wisdom or advice that you might have for our admitted students who are with us this evening.
Yeah, I think we've already touched on it a little bit. I think just viewing the experience and the fall as kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? Very infrequently in our lives do we get the chance to take 3 or 4 months in a stretch to just do something that we're really interested in, to pursue a passion, to try something new, to travel. And so I think considering that a part of your liberal arts experience at college and viewing it as an opportunity is really my biggest piece of advice to all of our students.
That's great. And then I'm wondering if each of our current students could share how you chose Hamilton.
Yeah, I can go first just because I'm a tour guide, so I have this one ingrained in my head. So I fell in love with Hamilton my sophomore year of high school and knew I wanted to go here. And I used to do this thing called the friendly campus test, where I would go up to like random groups of students as a like visiting high schooler and be like, "Where's admissions? Like, where I'm so confused." And I did that at Hamilton in front of Commons, which is one of the dining halls. And this big group of girls like came over to me and they're like, "Hey, do you want to go grab lunch?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm actually a sophomore in high school. Like where's admissions?" And then they walked me to admissions and they were like, after they waited for me outside and then they were like, "Let's go like grab lunch." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And I think that's very testament to the type of person you'll meet at Hamilton. I truly love pretty much everyone I've met here. They're all incredibly genuine and compassionate people and intelligent too. And I was just blown away by how like considerate these people were. Also, a girl who wasn't a Jan that I knew wrote me an essay on why I should be a Jan. And I knew her younger sister, but I didn't know her. And I was like, oh my God, if this girl who wasn't even a Jan is writing me an essay on why to be a Jan, she'd probably do it.
That's a great story.
My mom actually went to Hamilton. She was also a psych major, just as am I. And so Hamilton's always been kind of like in the back of my head, just because I knew how much my mom had loved her experience here. And I didn't do the friendly test that Ella does because I'm not an extrovert like Ella is. But I did measure how many times like the campus tour guides would like wave to people on campus, and it was always so high. And I wanted like a really friendly community that was also like really like intellectually challenging each other and really trying their hardest, but without being competitive. And I just like, that's something that I love about Hamilton. It really made me choose this community.
Great.
Yeah, I'd say I visited, I think, 12 different schools, and not a single other school were people as friendly as there at Hamilton. You just see people, the Martin's wave, as some people will call it. It's just, I probably, every time I walk from my dorm to the science center, will say hi to at least 5 people in the 10-minute walk. And even people that you like only kind of know, everyone is friendly with everyone here. And not just that, it's not just some sort of like superficial thing, but people reach out to you to like catch up and all that all the time. And it's, I feel like if you have had the opportunity to come to the campus, you'll definitely feel that. And when you do have the opportunity to come to campus, without a doubt, that's the first thing you have. And I'll add on a little bit. I didn't super have the chance to touch so much on dragons. So I'm going to put my email in the chat for anyone who wants to ask me any questions they have about where there be dragons. Definitely check out the website too if you're interested in that. A lot of the programs I just checked before this are about half full, so there's still a good amount of time though that people have to apply if you want to do that.
Thanks so much for being willing to be a resource. So unfortunately, we've run out of time. I wish we could keep on chatting, but certainly please don't hesitate to be in touch with me after this evening. If you think of more questions about Hamilton, about our January program, I'd be happy to address those questions with you individually. I'd also be happy to direct you to other resources that might also be helpful as you are considering all these options. But thank you so much to all of you admitted students for tuning in this evening. Thank you so much to our 4 panelists for being here with us tonight. We do hope that this was helpful for all of you. Please don't hesitate to be in touch with more questions. As I mentioned a little while ago, we will have another virtual event that is specifically for our admitted Jans. That again is on Tuesday, April 6th. At 7 o'clock Eastern time. That will be an information session where we will have representatives from each of our 3 partner programs, C Semester, School for Field Studies, and Arcadia University's program in London. They will be available to give you a general information session about their programs and about the application process. So if any of you are considering one of our partner programs for your fall experience, please feel free to join us again on April 6th. But thank you again for joining us this evening. Good luck to all of you as you are moving forward with your college search process. Congratulations again on your admission to Hamilton. And we really hope to see you here at Hamilton next year.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.